As you can see, the picture behind me doesn't have any authority because you can tell that it is a video screen. Look at that. You thought for a moment there that I was standing in a beautiful lake, but I'm not. I'm actually in front of a big TV in my classroom, and it looks like a nice backdrop with like alien lights and stuff. But today we're talking about the textual concept of authority. Authority refers to the level of trustworthiness and pre-recognised value that a document has and can inform the reader of the facts and opinions that are presented are actually reliable, unlike this board behind me. There are two different areas here: the authority of the author and the authority of the document. Authority is usually given by those that are considered special people or officials in the field, and with authority usually has like a set of words or special language that goes with it. So maybe in surf culture, busting a big move, using that kind of language is going to be appropriate for the authority of the person that's speaking. In academic sense, they're going to be using like bigger words or technical jargon. You might find the same kind of thing in the corporate world as well. Or more recently, in social media, you can see that authority is given by not special people in special suits, but more of the broader masses with likes and thumbs up, recommendations that are given by all. Thinking about how many people like a photo on Instagram or recommend a video on YouTube, that all has to do with authority these days, which is really starting to play the game changes. And that's sort of detaching authority from official language to authority using everyday language, so to speak, on those social media platforms. And now that everyone has an opinion, it means that documents aren't by themselves unquestionable authorities anymore. They're more open to everybody to have their say. This can be including somebody that just wants to have a go and get a laugh out of somebody, to the person that's genuinely got some doubts and some questions on the subject. And with this type, we can see a dance going on between the author of the topic and between the reader or the viewer of the topic to construct the authority, whether that's going to be named authority or whether it's going to have its authority taken away from it. It all depends on that dance between the author and the responder. Now, meaning of authority and the meaning of text is now questioned between the students using tools to identify authority of a document, whether it has authority or not, and whether it's trustworthy or a trustworthy source to credit, especially with all these sort of bogus sites and fake news sites that are on the internet these days. Students are learning tools to figure out if something's trustworthy or not, which is a really good thing. Here's what your child should aim to know at the different ages of their lives. When kids are about 5 or 6, kids can learn that literature is created by a person or a group of people. When they're ages 6 to 10, they'll learn that different people will not interpret the same text the same way, and some people will have a better understanding than other people. They'll also learn that authors are able to show the reader an interpretation, but there's no guarantee that the reader is going to get the interpretation of what the author is actually meaning to convey. In between the ages of 6 to 10, children should start to learn that different people will get a different understanding of what the author was trying to say, and they'll learn things in different ways from reading the same text. And this means that some people actually walk away with a better understanding than others. There's no guarantee that the reader is going to understand perfectly what the author was meaning to say. In the ages of 10 to 12, children start to understand that authority is given differently based on the different type of context that you're in. They begin to understand that by having sound spelling, punctuation, grammar in their writing is a way that their works can have a greater sense of authority. They also start to see that authority is actually an investment made into text from authority figures. Authority figures such as corporate bodies or bodies that give regulations or standards to any industry. However, seeing the rise of the social media platforms, we're starting to see that authority isn't held by those that live in ivory towers, so to speak, but it's now being held by the masses. Looking at Facebook or Instagram, maybe a photo may receive a lot of thumbs up or a lot of likes. Maybe a video is shared many times, and by doing this, you're increasing the authority of what the person has published. Rather than restricting it to the small few, it's now being given to the masses. Also, something good that children will start to learn at this age is that authority is actually valued, questioned, and even sometimes challenged. And children are now being taught the skills to pick apart a text and determine whether the authority is valid or not, which is a really important skill to have these days, given the white noise of information that is rampant on the internet. In the ages 12 to 14, students begin to learn about how authority can be manufactured, and that this manufacturing is something that happens between the author and the responder of the text. They begin to see that the greater command they have over the English language adds to the sense of authority that they have when they create pieces of writing. They begin to see that there can be various perspectives over the same text, and this in itself can also lead to a challenge in the authority of the text. In ages 14 to 16, students should be able to see how authority can be created as well as challenged. In this, they should also see what they need to do to maintain their authority in any given field. Students should be learning to reference other sources to add to their own authority in what they're writing about as well. However, students should also keep in mind that when responding to a text, there's no real call for the responders to have accurate language or any sort of language that lends itself to authority, because they're just responders. And we all know that the Facebook scene can get a little bit rowdy, something that they'll have to prepare themselves for. They can also see a technique where what you've written actually goes against the culture or of that society, and by doing so, depending on how you've written, can actually generate its own authority in itself. At around ages 16 to 18, students can begin to see that authority is actually a process that a text goes through to receive, or a process that a text goes through to be denied. A process of authorization, if you will. It should also see that by referencing or reworking another text can also undermine that text's authority, or maybe they might want to piggyback off their authority and adopt that into their own text by reworking it and referencing it themselves. Each document will have a position or a point of view on a matter that the reader can either subconsciously or consciously agree or disagree with. Students should begin to study how the research of the author was conducted so they can validate or deny the author or the text's authority. And learning how to deconstruct a text will help the student to expose cultural assumptions that have been generated by the author.